before. You know, you've heard how David HaMelech, there was a few things that David HaMelech couldn't understand why Hashem created. Spider, right? Right? So everything has a reason. I told my wife, even though I've learned that Gemara and I know that teaching well, but I still wonder, why did Hashem create teenagehood, adolescence? It's such a difficult stage, such a confusing for the adolescent and for the parents and for everybody around them. Everybody's just like waiting for it to finish, right? I mean, the adolescents they're also kind of waiting for it to because they're trying to be an adult as fast as they can, right? So it's a time where Kadosh Baruch Hu wants you to pull out that midah of Mikel Kamocha, right? Enduring it, even though you're the one that's helping and you're giving him the sustenance, vitality, right? Then the second one that we did was Nosei Avon, and that one we had a long talk last week about how every action that we do creates a spiritual reality. When we do a mitzvah, we create an angel, and that's a spiritual reality that brings good into the world. It continues to reveal Hashem in the world. And then when we do a sin, when we do the opposite, so we create also an angel, and we explain that what that angel, that now it's a creation that needs sustenance, it needs someone to keep it alive, and that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Even though Hashem didn't want it to be like that, but we did it. Hashem says, I'm gonna continue financing this creation until you do tshuva and you fix it, and then He's gonna turn around into good, right? And we spoke about how tshuva, how we retroactively we suck out, so to speak, the life force, that neshama that we put into that act, into that angel, and we bring it back, and now we bring it into the side of good, right? So, and until we do that, Hashem is nosei avon. He holds up the sin. He keeps it there until it's fixed. Okay, and now today we're getting to the third one. Hashlishi over al pesha. And Hashem over al pesha, I guess I would say, is a pesha. There's different kinds of sins. There's unintentional sins, chet, and then there's avon that is intentional, and then there's pesha. Pesha is how do you say pesha?
Intended to insult Hashem, right?
Right. Yeah. It's posher la'achis, like to anger Hashem, so to speak, like rebellious. Not just I know what I'm doing, right? One is I didn't know it was Shabbos today when I lit the candle. The second one is I know it's Shabbos, but I'm just not holding there. Hashem should help me. It lights the candle. The third one is I know it's Shabbos and I'm doing it intentionally to right.
It happened to me once in my life when I was like, it's been like 11 or something, and I woke up and I would turn on my computer and I started playing video games, and then my brother's friend who was visiting for Shabbat, he walks into my room. He's wearing his Shabbat clothes. He's like, it's Shabbos, and I just froze. I totally forgot that it was Shabbat. Crazy.
Right. It's a kid story. Right. So this one is ve'over pesha, that Hashem overlooks, or overs. We'll say overlooks pesha, which is a rebellious sin. Right. That's in the building. Yeah. Okay.
Until building, what's like next door or something?
Sounds here, but probably in the kitchen.
Smoke alarm maybe there.
Yeah.
Right. Until we smell smoke,
I really don't know what it is.
It's like Lahavdil, that when the Titanic was sinking, they told the band, the symphony, they kept on playing. The guys were playing music until we're chased out of here. We're learning Torah. Okay, so ve'over pesha, that Hashem overlooks iniquity. Zo midah gdola. This is a very big midah, meaning this is a very great midah. She'arei ena mechila al yedei shaliach. What's the greatness of this? It's interesting. The Ramak goes in a very interesting direction. I remember my first time learning this, I was like, wow, I never would have thought. A lot of these midas are like that, but you can see it. But this one, I never would have thought it went in this direction. He said, Eina mechila yedei shaliach. Hashem doesn't forgive us and atone for us through somebody else, through a shaliach. Right? Hashem doesn't send an angel to atone for us. Ela yado mamash shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rather, Hashem Himself is the one that atones for us. Kidichtib, like the pasuk says in Tehillim, Kuf Lamed, Ki imcha slicha, leman tivarei. Right? We say, because forgiveness is with. Right? Or you don't even have to go so far as a king. Someone who's a very wealthy, powerful person, and you did something against them. I mean, how are you supposed to make peace with them? Right? So first you find out who's close with them. Who's the person who is very close to this person that if a mutual connection, that you can talk to them. Maybe they'll, right, to check the sea, and the sea is it okay for me to go and apologize, and you send an apology through them. There's a whole system of in-betweens, and when we want to achieve atonement with somebody in this world, right? Because most people, the reason why that's so is because most people are not big enough and humble enough to forgive others in a way that's so gracious and just totally is willing to overlook what you did to me, right? Right? When there was the Hitnatkut here in Israel, when the government decided to give back the Gaza Strip, so that was a very difficult time in this country, and for the Jewish people. And they made these bumper stickers. Like the slogan was, "Lo nishkach v'lo nislach." We're not going to forget and we're not going to forgive, right? Which is a very intense thing, right? And so most of us, and that was coming from the religious, right? The Rav Kook world was right. Rav Kook was like the ultimate, salchan, totally humble. Right? It reminds me of a story of Rav Kook once, that Rav Kook didn't know. You guys know that Rav Kook didn't know the difference between 5 shekels, 10 shekels. It was liras back then. It was English, pounds, shilling. He didn't know the difference. He had nothing to do with money. Right. And matter of fact, because he was just always in the world of spirituality, just loving people in Torah. And so when they would give him his salary, and before he would get home, he had already given it all the way to tzedakah. So they had to make a system that they gave his salary directly to his wife, to the Rabbanit. Otherwise, they wouldn't have anything to eat for Shabbos or for Monday, Tuesday. So one time a person came to the door. You know, in those days the aniyut, the poverty in Israel was just like, we can't imagine. In our generation, we don't have anything to compare to that. Somebody came to the door and he asked for tzedakah. So Rav Kook said, "Just please wait." He tried to find one, and he got some coins, and he gave him the coins, and he apparently had given him like agarot, like he gave him a handful of coins. He thought he was giving him something good. Rav Kook didn't know what coins it was, and the poor person, he was insulted, so he gave it back to the Rav, and he ran. He started running away, and Rav Kook ran after him. And he chased him. It took him a couple blocks until he slowed down. He finally called him. He said, "What did I do? What's the matter?" He said, "Rabbi, I don't have anything to eat. You're the chief rabbi. You could give me maybe something that's, He said, "I thought I gave you a lot. Didn't I give you a lot? I gave you a whole handful." And he said, "Rabbi, those were agarot. That's not worth anything." Right? So he said, "Please, I'm begging you, come back to my house first. Let's have a meal together, and then I'll find the right coins." I wasn't trying to do that. Right? So how did we get there? What were we talking about? The Rav Kook, the guy gives him the money back, right? So he said, "Okay, you don't want my tzedakah, don't take it," right? And then afterwards he's going to go tell 4 people about it. You won't believe what happened to me this morning, right? Right? And I chase him down. The chief rabbi doesn't have anything to do with this day. He has a lot to do, right? Chase him down. "Please forgive me," right? And one more story. This is mamash beautiful. This is one of my favorite stories. Really one of my favorite stories. There was a tzaddik who lived in America. His name was Rav Yaakov Yosef Herman. They called him the Chafetz Chaim of America. There's a book his daughter wrote about him called All for the Boss. Whoever hasn't read it, especially if you're from America, yeah, it's a yellow book. Oh my goodness, unbelievable book. Everybody should read that book.
Yeah, now I remember I recently met some of the family, also Nachlaot, and they told me, I don't know what relation it was exactly, but I wrote this book.
Herman, right. Yeah. Wow. It'll knock your socks off. This book is unbelievable. He was just out of this world, and especially knowing the context of American Jewry back then. Right. Anyway, in the end of his life, he made Aliyah, and he lived in Yerushalayim. But what he had always done in America is he had an open house policy. Whoever needed, whatever Jewish immigrants would come, they would stay by him. All the biggest rabbis that would come from Europe would stay by him. Every Shabbos he had tins of guests, all kinds of amazing stories. The reason why he did that, by the way, is because he came to America as a young man, at 13, with his family from Europe, and they went back after a year because it was just too hard for them because you couldn't work without breaking Shabbos. He was able to find a way to do it, and some of his distant family who had been hosting him didn't host him in the kindest way. And he said, from now on, I'm hosting. My house is going to be open, and it's be a warm home for anybody that needs it. And he really did it for the next 50 years, 60 years. Came to Israel, and he had this open Shabbos Suda. Anybody that didn't have a Suda would come to his Suda. And imagine, you get all kind of the salt of the earth over there. And poor people, homeless people, didn't have any place to go. So there was one guy that would come every week. He was a regular, and he was a little bit unwell, right? If you understand what I mean. And so the rabbi, Rav Herman, what his policy was, is he would serve up the cholent to everybody, right? That was his honor to be able to serve everybody cholent. So one week his son had bought him a new bekisha, the silk Shabbos robe. Yeah. Black robe, and he was wearing this new bekisha. Now, in those days, a new bekisha was not like today. In those days, you could buy a bekisha, you wear it for 20 years, 30 years, right? In Europe, they would wear it for 20 years, and then you take it to the what do you call it, to the tailor, and he turns it inside out, and you wear it for another 20 years, right? So he's wearing his new bekisha, and he's serving up the cholent, and this guy didn't like, for whatever reason, the serving that he received, and he takes it, and he throws it on the rabbi. On his new bekisha, right? There's 40 people in the room. Here you are. You're at the rabbi's house. The rabbi's giving, right? Everybody went silent, right? And all of a sudden he realized what he did, and he ran. He took off running, right? That's why I thought about the story. Two take-off running stories. So he went running. He was so embarrassed. The rabbi went chasing him down. Took him 2 hours until he convinced him to please come back to the Suda. And when he came back, he said, I'll come back, but I'm not going to sit at the table with everybody else. He says, okay, I'll make you your own table. And the rabbi made his own table, and the rabbi sat with him at that table. And he said, I'll give you whatever serving you want. You just tell me what serving you want. I'll be happy to give it to you. And that was it. So he came back, he gave him cholent. So afterwards, his son said to the son of the rabbi, Rav Herman, said to him, this mom is the most amazing line. This could be life-changing if you take this in. I know I say every week I have one line that's but this is mamish. He said, Tati, you have so much savlanis, you have so much savlanut. And so he said, it's not true. He said, when you have rachmanut, you don't need savlanut. Rachmanut is compassion. Savlanut is patience. He said, when you have compassion, you don't need patience. Now I'm going to explain why this. That's the end of the story. Beautiful story, right? Savlanut, the shorish of the word savlanut, patience, is sovel, to endure, to carry something. It's heavy, I'm carrying it. When you call someone, who do you call? Someone who carries, you hire someone, a schlepper, to carry heavy things? A sabal. He sovel it. He endures it, right? It's about me. What's my threshold of endurance? How much weight can I hold? I'm the central piece of that equation. Savlanut is about me. Wow, I've got an amazing level of threshold until I snap. Rachmanut, compassion, it's about the other person. I'm not thinking about myself. This poor guy, he's embarrassed. My bekisha is dirty. Okay, who cares? It's a bekisha. I'll put it in the wash. Even if it got ruined, this person's embarrassed. That's his soul. This is clothing, right? It's about him. And when he's in the central place, so the person has so much more, what's it called, bandwidth for being there for another person. I'll give you an example just to prove this. Maybe you've had this in your own life. That sometimes you have a moment where you're a little bit broken or you're down about something. You're feeling, low. Something bad happened. Yeah, sure. And you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself or, bad. And then all of a sudden you hear about somebody that something really bad happened to, right? And all of a sudden you're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're feeling sorry for them. Mm-hmm. You have the place for compassion for another person, which I was totally consumed with myself at that moment and feeling overwhelmed with my own sorrows. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I'm able to be there for another person, right? So compassion. Okay, So v'over al pesha. So Hashem doesn't send other people, other angels, or a whole other system to atone for us. He Himself atones for us. Umay yaslicha. What is the forgiveness that Hashem gives us? Shehu rochetz avon. What is it? What does it mean? Here, if I forgive you, if you apologize to me and I say I forgive you, what am I doing at that? What's actually taking place? And if we say Hashem, forgive me, I did this. Hashem says I forgive you. It's just the word. He said Hashem is rochetz avon. He cleanses the sin. Yeah, He washes it away. Okay, it's as if it didn't happen. Right? We're back together again.
That's why people want sincere apologies, because if apology feels insincere, they still feel like, oh, it hasn't been washed away.
Right.
But if it's a sincere apology, then they feel that whatever the guilt that they felt that they apologized for is gone.
Right. Isn't that amazing? That's a really deep point. Right. And because if you're just giving me lip service, if you're just saying it because that's the system, you're just supposed to say I'm sorry and everything. It's like kids, tell her you're sorry. She's over here, sorry. It's not even like, right? Okay, it's a step.
Right? Time. I mean, for sincere apology, you need time. You can't just tell him sorry. You need time to be sincere.
For the person who's making the apology.
Yes.
Right. Sometimes apologizing is one of the greatest skills and one of the greatest attributes is if a person learns how to apologize sincerely to other people and taking full responsibility, right? Because it's healing, right? It's healing. Like Micha was saying that until I get a sincere apology, I don't have the ability in my heart to really forgive you and to wash it away and to pretend that it's not there. Because until I feel from you that you have remorse, right? So Hashem, so Kedichsi, like the pasuk says, Im lachatz Hashem et soat benot Zion. The pasuk says in the Navi Yeshaya that Hashem washes away the sin of Israel, just like something dirty, just like waste, like the waste of Benot Zion. It also says in Yechezkel, just like you guys said in Slichot this morning, and I will throw upon you pure water and cleanse you. Right? It's an interesting analogy that the prophet uses. Right? I'm going to cleanse you. Just say I forgive. No, because the whole part of forgiving is cleansing. Hashem, that's what it means that Hashem is over al pesha, that He overlooks the iniquity, meaning He washes it. He cleanses it. Right? Which is I'll just say just one thing here now, because this is something that comes up all the time, especially with Balei Tshuva, is that Balei Tshuva, they come to the 10 days of Tshuva, and they do Tshuva, Hashem, I did this, I did that, and they go through their whole past, and they feel tremendous remorse about it, and they're really trying to cleanse themselves off, and then they believe that Hashem, we have, part of Tshuva is that we have to believe that Hashem accepts our Tshuva, and it works, that the process works, but then afterwards I still feel like I've got it on me. Why? Because I still remember it.
Yes.
I can still imagine it. I can still picture where I was on that day, on that night, and I still know what I did. So I don't feel cleansed from it, right? Gentlemen, you'll just have to take my word for it, as the representative of all the tzaddikim. The fact that you can still remember it doesn't mean that it's not cleansed, right? Although Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin says that when you remember it, when you that residual memories that you still have of it, if you still feel pain about that, right? Where was I on that day? What I could have been doing and what I was doing, still feels remorse about it. That itself is part of the cleansing process. That doesn't mean that it's still part of you and you still have that and you didn't do tshuva over it because you remember it. It means that you still have that residue as a way of cleansing you and atoning. That itself, the pain that you feel about it itself, is cleansing, right? So, and now the Ramak says, what's our job here? And this is what we should strive for. We should try to be like this. We shouldn't say, I'm going to fix what somebody else did. He's the one that did it. Let him clean it up, right? Meaning, we said before, this is an extra level of what we've said for the previous two midos. The first midah is, I'm not going to cut you off sustenance to you because you're still sinning. The second one is, even though the sin is still there, and Hashem says I have to hold it up, so to speak, right? So what's our job in that? What's our way of emulating that? Is that even though the person's still doing the bad thing, it's still there, and I still have to like notice it. It's still part, right? I still am compassionate, but here it's saying even more. A person shouldn't say, "What, I'm going to clean up after you." That's your job. Let me clean up after myself. I'm going to clean up after you. He says, "Lo yomar kach." Don't say that. She'adam chotev v'Hakadosh Baruch Hu b'atzmo shelo yadei shaliach metaken et meuvatav v'rochetz tzuat avono. Because Hashem Himself cleans a person of his sin. Hashem doesn't say, you know what, that's below my dignity. I'm going to send the angels, the lower angels that have to deal with all that and change you guys' diapers, right? When I say change diapers, because he uses the analogy of cleaning a person's waist, right? And I remember, if you'll forgive me for that, for the crudeness of that analogy, but I remember my first year in Israel on Yom Kippur, and I was in Gush Katif that year, and I was davening this amazing minyan with Rav Tal, and the unbelievable the depth of tshuva that was taking place in that room was just off the charts, and I wasn't prepared at all for it. In America, davening is, did you ever see in America? Did you ever see anybody cry in shul? I don't think I ever saw such a thing.
Maybe once in my whole life.
I remember as a boy. I grew up in the conservative. So this is maybe not a fair assessment of all, right? But I remember, sitting there on Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and Shemona Esrei, and like everybody was holding the siddur, nobody knows what they're saying, and there's like a couple of old men, the old Holocaust survivors that were still alive back then. They're in the front of the shul and they're going like this, and I remember thinking, like, why are they shaking? What are they shaking about? I don't understand. But as a kid, I remember thinking, but they know something that we don't know, right? They're doing something that we're like, we're pretending to do what they're doing, but nobody knows exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So here I come in the shul in Gush Katif. The Rosh Yeshiva is crying. But when I say crying, he's wailing like a baby. Wailing. How long do you think it went on for? 5 minutes? 6 minutes? Try the entire day. The entire day. There was no break. There was a 4-minute break in the davening that day, in Yom Kippur. And he literally he has a box of tissues, and he's got a plastic bag. And when he's finished with the tissue, he puts it, the bag is filled with the tissues. He's the chazan, and I didn't have a place, to sit, so I just was standing right next to the Rosh Yeshiva. And so, like, it was what do you call it? Medabek.
Stuck.
When a person gets sick and another person who's contagious, it's contagious. The Rosh Yeshiva's crying. I was like, oh my gosh, if he's crying, I'm sure I've got things that I need to be crying about. Right? And so I started crying, right? And then it's building, and I started really, the first time in my life, I think I really did chew like that, wailing, and then finally, okay, come down, catching my breath again. And the Rosh Yeshiva was still crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I got more. Right?
Was this like right before they got evicted?
Huh? Yeah, this was like 2 years before, yeah.
Did they know that they were going to get evicted at that time?
I mean, they were always talking about it. Just like now, they're always talking about, the West Bank and Golan. Not even though now they talk about it much less than they used to back then. Back then, there was always talk about giving the lands back, just like they did in Sinai. I can't remember how I got to that story, but now I remember how I got to the story. I remember having a feeling after that day, like of when just kind of absolute, just like unfiltered honesty with what my situation is, what I've done, and who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, and I literally felt like a baby that made a dirty diaper. There's nothing I could do about this. Only you can change this, only you can cleanse it, right? So sorry for the crude analogy, but it's really an accurate analogy. It's like, the fact that we sin, we're human beings. The fact that a baby makes a dirty diaper, they're a baby, right? We don't expect that we're going to be perfect, right? But we must turn to Hashem and realize that how much compassion that is, that Hashem cleanses us like that. And it's a cleansing, right? So Hashem does it Himself, and Hashem doesn't say, no, I'm not going to do that, right? So too, we should. What he's saying, he doesn't actually say it, but in between the lines, he's saying we should be ready to be there for another Jew to cleanse them. Yeah, they made a mess. Yeah, we should clean it up. We should try to clean it up. We should be ready to clean up another person's misdoings. And then he adds something else here at the end. He says, and also this should serve as a deterrent for us when we're to sin. By the way, I only use the word sin just because it's a shortcut and we all know what I'm talking about. But I don't really like that word. I grew up in Texas, Southern Baptist and everything. I like the words God and sin, like I was like mukta, but I started using it just because it's easy. Anyway, you'll forgive me if there's negative connotations with that word. Because Hashem himself, a person it should be a deterrent to sin. Wow, it's not like I'm gonna, Hashem himself is the one that's going to. I'm gonna have to make Hashem, so to speak, cleanse me of this, right? So that should be a deterrent. Okay, that was Gimel. That was Vovei Pesha. Okay, now gentlemen, I'm really excited about this one. We don't have so much time, but I'm gonna try to do it. Okay. Then the fourth midah is l'sherit nachalato, which literally means to the leftover of his inheritance. Meaning we're Hashem's inheritance, we're Hashem's portion, and the nachala. So Hashem, in the context of the pasuk, it's Micha kamocha, God who is like you, nosei avon v'ovei pesha, that you take up iniquity, you take up sin, and you pass over iniquity. For who? L'sherit nachalato, for the leftover portion, your portion, Am Yisrael, right? But listen to where he goes with this. This one is a mamish amazing. And again, this is like the best preparation for Rosh Hashanah that you could ask for is in this chapter here. This is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates to us. Lomar, which is to say, what can I do? What can I do? Am Yisrael, v'hem krovai, they're my mishpocha. It's my family, right? Sherit means leftover, like the surviving parts, or shiraim. It also means she'er. She'er means also relative, right? Sherit nachalato. They're the relatives of Shem's portions of right. So Shem says, what can I do? If it's somebody else, maybe I could punish them. It's my mishpocha. It's my right. It's my boychikul, right? She'er basar imahem. I'm like one flesh with him. They're like my mishpacha. Shehem bat zug like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're the partners with Hashem. Bat zug is like a spouse, right? The korela bitin. Hashem calls us in the pasuk in Shir Yashim, biti, achuti, imi. He calls us my daughter, my sister, my mother. All the different versions of my family, a relative, this relationship that I love, right? We call Hashem like a brother. Miten Hashem achli. Right? It says in the last chapter of Shir Shirim, that's what the Midrash talks about that. Yisrael am krovo, and we say every morning in Pesukei Dezimra, Yisrael am krovo. We are the nation that's close to Hashem. Krovo doesn't just mean close; it means relatives. Mamash kurva yesh lo imahem ubanavim. It's like a real relative, so to speak, with Hashem, and we're Hashem's sons. We're Hashem's children. And that's what it means for the leftover, for the relatives of Hashem's portion. Lashon shem basar, we're the same flesh, same blood. V'sof sof hem nachalato, and in the end of the day, we're Hashem's portion. U'ma ima anisham arei akev alai. So if I'm going to punish them, you guys, I don't know if anybody here has children or whatever, but when sometimes you have to give a punishment to your children, you have to withhold something from them. Who do you think hurts more at that moment, the child or the parent? Right? Okay, it depends on if the parent's a healthy person or not. Yeah. But if they're a healthy person, so it hurts. It hurts to have to withhold from your children, even if it's something that right? You have to do it, right? You have to do it. You have to teach them something, or you have to protect them from something, right? So Hashem says, in the end of the day, I'm going to punish them. I'm going to be hurting much more than them. Just like the pasuk says in Yeshayahu, in all of their pain, for me it's pain. Hashem suffers through our pain. Uksiv lo ba'alef lama shetzaram magia lepele elyon v'chol sheken ledu partzufin. This is something that's like the one little piece here that like he goes deep Kabbalistic. I'm not going to explain this because these are deep Kabbalistic concepts. I'll just translate it. He says, which means that their pain reaches a place, this place where it is explained in the deepest form. Rizal, the Ramal also explains it in what I forget the name of the sefer. Right, Pardes Rimonim in the orchard of pomegranates. Lepele Elyon, that the pain it reaches Hashem in a place called the Pele Elyon, the exalted wonder. The Chol Sheken, and all the more so in a place called Du Patzufin. Du Patzufin is a remiss to the place, you guys know, it says in the Gemara that when Adam and Chava were created, they were actually one body, literally one body, and the heads were on opposite sides, right? So that's Du Patzufin, the two faces, right? So it's a representative of us and Hashem, that we're literally one flesh, so to speak, even though not flesh, right? But we're like one being with Hashem. So, Shehem Ikar Anaga. The main way that Hashem relates to us is really from this place of being together with us as one. V'karinan v'vav lo tzar. The pasuk says for every tzar that we have lo tzar. It's written with an aleph, lamed aleph, not. It's not a tzar, but it's ktiv. Sorry, it's kri. You guys know that sometimes we have psukim that are written one way with one vav, but we read it with another one. And here it's with a vav, lo tzar. To him, Hashem, it's tzar. Hashem has tzar whenever we have tzar. That Hashem became in pain because of the iniquities of Am Yisrael. It says in Shoftim. Because Hashem can't stand when we're in a place of shame or in pain. It hurts Hashem tremendously. Sorry, so that's the midah. The midah is that Hashem says, I have compassion on you from this place of that I'm you, you're me, we're family, right? Everybody knows that we relate to our family in a little bit different way than we relate to everybody else in the world, right? At the end of the day, it's family, right? It's family, right? So now the Ramag is going to explain us how should we embody this. This is how a person should behave with his friend, with his fellow Jew. Kol Yisrael hem sher basar. All of Am Yisrael is mamish, one body. Elu im elu. They're all together. They're one family. Because our souls are all one soul. Right? Rav Kook has very deep pieces explaining, visualizing the oneness of the soul of Am Yisrael. That even though we look, right, even that also the Balatanya in chapter 32 in the Tanya explains how we're separated by our bodies, but our souls there is no separation between our souls, right? Just like if you look at your fingers, it looks like each one is a separate item. It's really all the same, right? The Gemara in Yerushalmi in the Dharam says if you're cutting meat and your right hand accidentally cuts your left hand is not going to say, well, I'm going to get you back, right hand, I'm going to cut you, because that would be ridiculous. He sees that it's one body, right? So even if there's pain, friction that was caused in between two parts of the body, right? So, but we don't start. So the same thing with Am Yisrael. It's one soul. So if something happened between two Yidden, so we're not gonna go and fight about that. We're gonna realize we're all one. Says the Ramak is saying here, Yesh b'zeh chelik mizeh. I've got a portion in you, uv'zeh chelik mizeh, and you've got a portion in me. We're all united. And that's why it says that when one person does a mitzvah, it's givaldik, it's great. But when more people do mitzvah together, it's much, much more beautiful. Why is that? What difference does it make? If we've got 10 people and we're all in 10 separate rooms doing a mitzvah, 10 mitzvahs. If we're 10 people in the same room doing a mitzvah, 10 mitzvahs. Why should it be greater? It says, but it's even halachic classification here. Sheberovam hadrat melech, that it's better. Just yesterday, I had a friend who was making a brit. He said, I want to do it early in the morning because he's a guy that daven's nates every day. But my family's coming from all around Israel, and they can only get here in the afternoon. right? So that's a halachic question. Should you do a bris early in the morning, or should you push it off later and wait because there's it's much greater when there's a lot of people there, right? Berovam Handras Melech. Right, so now the Ramchal explains. The Ramak explains it a little bit. This is what he explained in Gemara and Masechet Brachot. You guys know that if there's a great thing is to get to shul first, before everybody else. Not a competition, but to be among the first 10 is a wonderful thing. It says in the Gemara. It says, "Va'afilu mea ba'im acharav." And even if 100 people come after those first 10, mekabel schar keneged kulam. These first 10 receive reward, not in place of those 100, but that's equal to all those 100. What does that mean? So it's a very interesting thing, right? Not that we should wake up and pull out a calculator and make cheshbonot like this in the morning, but they're trying to teach us something. Mea mamash. It didn't just throw out a number, the 100 that come after that. Because, let's think of a big number. That was very intentional, that number. Those 10, this is why when more than one people do a mitzvah together, so it's much greater. It's not just that there's 10 of us doing a mitzvah, now there's 10 mitzvahs. I have inside of me a piece of each one of you. Right? So if I do a mitzvah, it's not just me doing a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah, it's me doing 10 mitzvahs. And now you have a piece of me and everybody else, and now it's like you're doing 10 mitzvahs. So altogether it's like 100 mitzvahs. Right? So the 10 people that come first, each one of them has a piece of the other one in there. So it's really like 100 people. So the amount of reward that they receive, so to speak, the amount of spiritual ecstasy that they receive through that is like 100.
The term in English is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
So if you have like the Gemara uses the example with the sticks, that 10 individual sticks, it's very easy to break them. But if you have a whole bunch, 10 sticks, it's nearly impossible.
Right. Yeah, beautiful. ואם כן אפילו יבואו 100 הוא יש לך 100. וכן מטעם זה כל ישראל ערבים זה לזה. And therefore it says that all of Am Yisrael, we are accountable for each other. Accountable, arev also means we're mixed in. We're mixed in with each other, right? Like he has another word, eruv, on Shabbos. What does the word eruv mean? Mixed. Beautiful. Right? Most people think eruv means that string that goes around that makes the actual, what we call the eruv. What it means is we're mixing all of these different parts. This alley and this street and this neighborhood, we're mixing it all and we're making it as its one domain. Right? Because every single Yid has one portion of every other Jew inside of him. And he is inside of every other Jew. Now if I Chas v'shalom, do something wrong, if I sin, I could say to everybody else, leave me alone. I got my life, you got yours, right? But it doesn't work like that, because if it's not just that I bring. It's not like my body. If I decide to eat, McDonald's every day, I think there's somebody that made a documentary that they ate just McDonald's for like a month and they almost died. Yeah. So, right? So I could say, look, I'm not going to damage you by killing myself, right? But spiritually, it's not true. If I bring something unhealthy into my soul, so it's also bringing it into your soul, right? Automatically. Analogy I like to give for that is like if we're in a boat together and a guy starts drilling a hole under his seat. I say, what are you doing? He said, what does it bother you? This is where I'm sitting. Right? But we're all in the same boat, right? We're all connected here. So when it comes to all this interconnectedness, that means that we're really related, literally. We're really one with each other. And now, how do we bring this together? And therefore, how do you embody this midah? Not just by saying, well, what can I do? He's my family. Right? All that's already pretty decent. He says, we should seek the good for each other. Not passively. We should seek the good for each other. And your eye should be good when you look upon your fellow. You should look good upon them. You should look positively at them. You should want good for them. And his honor, his respect should be as precious to you as yours is to yourself. Because he is you. Right? To feel your interconnectedness with Am Yisrael. And this is why we've been given the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, to love your fellow Jew like yourself. And it's befitting that you should only want good things for your fellow Jew, and not to speak anything negative about them, or not to want anything negative to happen to them. Right? If you look in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim, all the halachas of Lashon Hara, you can really sum up one major point as a klal for all things Lashon Hara, which is, what's your intention? If your intention is to speak badly about this person, right, for whatever reason, that's your intention. You want to paint him in a bad way. You're not doing it for his own good. It's for something that you've got in you. It's Lashon Hara. There are a few situations where, even if it's Lashon Hara, but it's for his benefit, that it's okay, or also for your benefit. But your intention is not just to speak poorly about him. We shouldn't want to speak. We shouldn't want to say, just like you wouldn't want to say anything bad about your own child, right? About your own sibling, your own parent. Just like Hashem doesn't want us to be shamed, or us to be in pain. Because He loves us, because we're family. Mishpuche. Which we should feel pain when another Jew is in pain, and when he's suffering, when he's embarrassed. When he's in some type of difficulty, you should be there with him, mamish. So you're going through it with him, right? This is empathy. And when he's going through something good, you have joy with him. And everybody can in your own lives, you can. I'm sure each one of you has somebody that you can imagine that, like, when you're going through something, that there's someone that it's comforting to talk to, because they're there with you. They feel it with you, right? If I can cry with you, what a koch it is to be able to cry with another person. They say about Rav Kook also that when he would go to be Menachem Ava, when he would go to a house of mourners, he was the Kohen, he was the Rava Rashi. He would sit down on the floor next to the person who was in mourning, and he wouldn't say anything. He would just cry. He would just cry with them. He was able to feel their pain, right? And on the other side, joy. You go to a wedding, and sometimes you see somebody who they dance. It's like they're some distant friend or not, but they dance with all their heart and their soul, right? They really feel your joy, right? This is why, as a parent, grandparents there's one element besides all the other great thing about grandparents, but one vital piece of grandparents that all parents really need is they share my joys. Oh, look at the picture that Yankala drew in Gan today, right? And then when grandma's quelling over that, so there's something that, right? Oh, they're together with me in my joy. I need my joy shared with somebody else. I need my pain shared with somebody else. That empathy, to be there together with Am Yisrael, and the lesson is really to realize that it is your joy. Their joy is your joy. Their success is your success, and their pain and their failure is your pain and your failure. And you should feel pain, and you should be there together with them. We shouldn't go into a place of blaming. We shouldn't go into a place of shaming, of judging. It's just from a place of compassion. It's mishpacha. And now, why is all that relevant to Rosh Hashanah? Because the Sfarim say that on Rosh Hashanah, all the prayers that we have are in Lashon Rabim, or in plural tense. That they're not. We don't say, give me this, or I'm asking for this. We say, give us, help us. And some Sfarim say that all of our prayers should be on Rosh Hashanah just for other people and just for the klal. No, there shouldn't be any personal prayers. I give you permission to daven also for all your own personal prayers, B'ezrat Hashem, Rosh Hashanah. But I have a personal practice that I've done ever since I was a student here at Machon Meir, actually years ago, is that I prepare for myself notes before Rosh Hashanah, before Yom Kippur. Different things for Yom Kippur, things that I want to do tshuva about, that I want to make sure that I talk about, that I go into. On Rosh Hashanah, I have a list of different things that I've learned about Rosh Hashanah, different kavanas that I want to remember, that I want to meditate on, And then I have a separate list of all the different people that I know in my life that I want to daven for. And I set aside a time. You have 48 hours on Rosh Hashanah. So you can set aside a time, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes even. Find yourself a quiet corner, go over your list, and just bring to mind every single person in your life. Daven for them, want good for them. There's something that's amazing that takes place inside of you when you do that, besides the fact that it has a tremendous impact on their lives. But the Sfarim say the main thing is that when Hashem comes down, so to speak, on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Adin, He's coming to judge us. What's the judgment? The judgment is not, have you been a good boy or a bad boy? The judgment is, who do you want to be? Where are you going? Right? What's done is done. Do tshuva, we can clean that up. Yom Kippur, you have for that. My question for you on Rosh Hashanah is, where are you going? What are you striving for? The judgment is on that, gentlemen. According to the Kabbalah and Chassidus, that's the judgment, right? The book of the Tzaddik and the book of the Rishaim, the question is, where do you write yourself in? Where do you want to be, right? K'tiva v'chatima tova. You've been written and sealed for a good year. What are the Sfarim? Yosha Divrei Emes, Talmud of Magim Mizlocher says, how much do you write it? How much are you bringing it into your heart? Where you want to be next year? That's the judgment. And Hashem comes down on this day of judgment, and He says, and He sees, you're sitting there with your list. I want from my mother, from my father, from my sister, from my brother, from my friend in yeshiva, for the guy that I saw on the street that was crying. I don't know what was going on with him, but for him also, right? For everybody I know, I want it to be good for them. Hashem says Hashem's coming down. He's asking, what do you want this year, so to speak? And He said, we just want it to be good for everybody else. And they're saying, we want to be good. Hashem says, what a beautiful nation. This is beautiful. I want to give everybody the most beautiful year, right? And so that's the midah of Sheris Nachalosai. Sheris Nachalato is that to relate to Am Yisrael that we're one, right? And when you're in those very powerful tefillas of Rosh Hashanah and everybody's holding hands and dancing and jumping together, right? So then, it gives us a special ability to feel that, right? But the work is really on the inner level, and it's something that we struggle with our whole life, feeling our separateness with everybody, and we need to understand that there's something else. It's true. If I'm in the central bus station in New York City, or in Beijing, or I'm in the international airport of Curaçao, or anywhere like that, I look around. I love everybody because you're all made in the image of God, but we're not family. We're not mishpocha, right? Here in Eretz Yisrael, or together with Am Yisrael, this is my mishpocha. It's my mishpocha. Doesn't mean I don't love everybody, but this is my mishpocha. It's something else. We're one. We're one. I need to start to relate to my fellow Jew in a different way, a whole different way, a whole more exalted way. Coming from America, just last comment I'll say, and I'll let you guys free until next year. But growing up in America, especially today, but there's so much talk about race, ethnicity, and there's so much kind of fear around that subject, and there's so much sensitivity or lack of sensitivity around that subject. And growing up, that was kind of the world I grew up in. You come to Israel, you're sitting in a minyan. The Jews, every shade that exists in the rainbow, everybody's got that color skin. Who cares? It's not an issue. It's not an issue. It's like, when you're coming from that world, so like maybe at first you notice it, right? But once you're living in Israel for a while, you're like, it's not I can't understand what they're talking about. I don't understand right? So and that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. Doesn't matter your language, doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your background. You're a Yid or Mishpacha. I'll tell you one story because guys, I like to tell stories. When I was my last year in America, and this is mamish. After this year, you're free. You're free. You can run out of the door, and no one's going to stop you. My last year in America, I was living in Austin, Texas, and I was in Austin, Texas. There was, I think, 4 other observant Jews on campus in University of Texas. There was 4,000 to 5,000 Jews, but we only had like 2 observant ones by the end of the year. And I didn't have a minyan. On Shabbos, we had a minyan. It took until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon until the minyan would come. We'd drag somebody out of the bed, and that's how we would do Shabbos. So I was kind of starving for Jewish camaraderie, and I took a trip up to New York and to visit my brother who was living in Manhattan at the time, And so I'm walking in the airport, and I see another Yid over there with a kippah, right? And so here I am, this friendly text, and in New York we don't talk to each other, but in Texas you talk to everybody. So I walk up to him and say, hey, Shalom Aleichem, and he looks up. This was before the days of smartphones, or even I don't know, there's text messages. He looks up to him. He's like, do I know you? I said, no, but we're Yidden, we're Mishpocha. He said, okay, I don't know you. You're talking to me, I don't know you. So it's a rude awakening for me of what it's like in New York. But that tmimus, that purity that I had at that moment, that's how it should be. Because we walk down the street, we should fill our hearts with love for Yidden. Okay, Mamish, last one. There was a tzaddik that Mamish once said that there was a tzaddik in Poland, one of the great Litvish Rosh Yeshiva, that he would stand outside. He had a practice every morning. He would stand and his window faced the main boulevard there in the street, and he would just sit there and he'd open the window, and every time a Yid would walk by, he would just wish them well. He would say just one word of goodness to them. You should have a good day. You should have blessing today. It should be good for you today. Your children should give you nachas today. You should do lots of mitzvahs today. I'm wishing good for you. What a beautiful, beautiful practice, right? If we could take that in our hearts, bring it in, try to elevate ourselves a little bit to this midah of Sheris Nachal. So we're going to be drawing down this midah of Hashem into the world. Okay, guys, a beautiful year. I'll see you next year, B'ezrat Hashem.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.